Today's special edition is sponsored by none other than Tiny Tales, Big Triumphs. How animals show up super, how animals show us super strength. Chapter by chapter, this book will take children on an extraordinary journey, introducing them to a diverse array of animals who embody the true meaning of strength and perseverance, from overcoming challenges to finding inner calm. Each chapter explores different aspects of resilience in a way that is relatable and engaging for young minds. So if you have a small child from age 6 to 13 that loves reading, or you would just like to have an amazing book that has no drama or no kaflama to read to your child, then get Tiny Tales, Big Triumphs, How Animals Show Us Super Strength. This book that will inspire young readers to discover resilience through the remarkable stories of animals is available today on Amazon. So get it today. Do not delay. How are all of you today? I'm so excited because on this special edition of Talk to Me, in honor of Women's History Month, we're going to ask you to listen in as my friend, my pal, my compadre, my ace coon boom, my everything great in my life as a friend, Lisa Deschamps, the 15 Minutes Results Coach, will be discussing none other than the fabulous Senator Elizabeth Dole. She is a story that is still being written that will be forever told. And I'm excited to have her here during this final days of Women's History Month, discussing one of her heroes and someone that she has taught me so much about. Lisa, welcome to the stream. How are you today?
Hey, Brenda, thank you for having me, and thank you for hosting this particular piece for Women's History Month.
You know, we talked about doing a lot for Women's History Month. And as you know, I got busy and things happened and life was life and it just did not happen. However, what did happen was, I'm happy to say, Talk to Me interviewed a lot of amazing women each Friday. And you can go back if you're looking on this now and see the women of impact that we have interviewed. But today we're honoring on this special dinner none other than Senator Elizabeth Dole for this Women's History Month. And Lisa, please, could you tell our audience why you in particular wanted to honor this woman of impact and not let this month close out before we said, Senator Dole, we see you?
Actually, it's one of those things that you and I have been talking about, like you said, all month long. And the other day, something hit me like a ton of bricks. We were talking about all the impact that thousands of women have made. And I've always talked about Senator Dole. She has been in my life since I joined the Air Force in 1986, when we actually had to learn about the Secretary of Transportation. We had to learn about all the secretaries. But at the time, she was the Secretary of Transportation. And I had a fascination because you didn't see very many women in positions like that. And she was the first woman to hold it. And this past month, I've really been, we have to tell people about these terrific women. We have not spent, with everything going on in this world, I've never considered myself a female. I'm obviously a female, but
I know what you mean.
It's never been one of those topics. It's always, I do what I do because I do it. But I think we really needed to recognize women. And Senator Dole, because I've been following her for so long, I've met her many times over the years. Her impact goes over 50 years of different things that she did, from the Secretary of Transportation to the Secretary of Labor and beyond, in her current, and she currently has the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. So for me, I love the lady so much that I just felt I wanted to take a moment and recognize this dynamic woman who has always put people first.
And that's good. So let's take time now to talk about her legacy. You know, oftentimes we wait until someone's gone before we give them their flowers and tell them how great they are. There have been thousands of women that have done amazing things. And oftentimes we do not reach out and say, hey, We think you're fabulous. I am happy to say that you have reached out. You've created flip books. You've done picture books that you have actually sent to the senator, and she was blessed to receive them and gave some really good comments. But I'm flipping through the flip book I hear now, because when you mentioned about her being transportation secretary, she was the 20th, or that she was the 8th United States Secretary of Transportation. I saw
Right.
in this book. I would have never known that had I not looked at your flip book that you've sent me and that you had created for her. So talk about her legacy and what it's meant to you personally before we go into the big picture of what it meant to women all over the United States and around the world.
Well, what it meant to me personally is I had somebody to follow. And it wasn't necessarily that I was stalking her. I was following because I wanted to see what this lady who appeared very calm, who had this no nonsense, I respect everybody attitude in a time where when I joined the military, if you were pregnant, they separated you.
Mm-hmm.
I literally came in where you got the option, but had I been pregnant 6 months earlier, I wouldn't have had the option. They would have separated me from the
Right,
military.
right.
So there were a lot of changes going on in the military at the time. So to follow her, and I wanted to see what she was doing. And when she was looking at highway construction, which is when I was first in the military, I thought that just doesn't even pass my logic test. But
Mm-hmm.
today it does. I understand it now, but I didn't understand it then. And then when she was the Secretary of Labor, she was the 20th Secretary of Labor, both first time a female was appointed. And she actually advocated for more flexible work hours for people. Can you
Mm.
imagine being in an environment and then all of a sudden saying, hey, I want more flexible work hours? She
Yeah.
really made a difference, not only to reduce work hazards, which was really big back then, because if you go back to the 80s, you can see all the work hazards there were and all the changes that have been made over the years with OSHA and stuff. And she also laid the essential foundation that would eventually lead to the recognition and enforcement of labor rights in the United States. And
Okay.
for me, in the military, you don't have to worry about labor. You get paid based on your rank. Doesn't matter. You work 24/7 if you're told to work 24/7. So the hour aspect really didn't matter. But when she became president of the American Red Cross, that's when I really watched her. We had a lot of TV back then that showed her more as the president of the American Red Cross. The only reason I got to know what she did as Secretary of Labor and Secretary of Transportation is because it came through our government emails. But
Mm.
as president of the American Red Cross, we got to see her literally on TV whenever there was a disaster. She'd come on and speak. Her dynamic way of speaking with such calm in an emergency
Mm-hmm.
really captivated me back then and really helped me because I like preparation
Mm-hmm.
and I like to see and I can go into a disaster and not have any problems, but I loved her calmness. And one of the things that she also did as president of the American Red Cross is she actually made everybody know about our American blood supply shortages, because back then we had a lot of American blood supply problems back then. So it's interesting to see all of the different things that she has done
Mm-hmm.
and the impact that she has made on millions of people's lives, and nobody has a clue.
You know what I think is interesting too, because you mentioned some things about negotiating better work hours and stuff. Then that leads me into my question. In your view, how do you see the things that Senator Dole did that are now helping modern day women in the workforce?
I think it's the enforcement of labor rights, because if you don't enforce the labor rights, and not necessarily with the unions, but I mean labor rights for everybody, then you've got a little bit of a problem, because that means you're working 12, 14-hour days and they don't have to pay you the proper overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was the most dynamic piece for the labor, because I think her understanding, her lens was different from everybody else. And remember, her husband, Senator Bob Dole, was a Vietnam veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course he went on to become senator, and they've both been very active in the community. So they really understood people. they really had the people first mindset.
Now, one of the things that is a legacy for Senator Dole is Elizabeth Dole, in which I clarify that because being two, is her foundation. And before we bring up the slide that talks about the fellows and her, talk a little bit about her foundation and why you feel like that's really important. Because, you know, we all, not we all, but a lot of people, when they hit a certain age, they begin to think about what will my legacy be? I will say one of the things that struck me most as I looked through the flip books that you created and I began to read stories on my own, go to her website, the ElizabethDoleFoundation.org, and just actually began to do a deep dive into who she is as a person, as a public servant. First of all, I was blown away. And second, I thought, what an amazing legacy this lady is leaving for how women can uh, lead from the front, how women can make an impact, and how we don't have to be limited to what society says we can do, because she did a lot of things before her time and when people were saying women should not.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she was even senator for North Carolina, which is how she got the title of Senator Dole.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. I'm in North Carolina for those of you that don't know. Okay.
I thought it would slide that one in. Yeah. So when Senator Bob Dole was at Walter Reed Medical Center, Senator Dole, Elizabeth Dole, would go ahead and she would visit with the families to see how they were handling. And she realized the struggles that the families were having when the veterans would come home and they'd have to go through Walter Reed Medical Center. So she decided that she needed to do something, but she didn't know what to do. So the Elizabeth Dole Foundation was created with a mission and empowerment of the nation's military and veteran caregivers, because it really is about the caregivers. And she actually did the first study for our veteran and military caregivers, which is we have over 5.5 million veteran caregivers who don't get paid. They're just caregivers for our veterans. But what do they need? You know, everybody, disabilities are out there, caregivers are needed, but veterans and a lot of our challenges are more than just what you can see. And we as and veteran caregivers take on a whole lot more sometimes than an average caregiver. And I don't say average with any disrespect at all. More so than a civilian caregiver who's not taking care of a veteran who was injured in some other way. And that was the foundation for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, was what can we do? Let's do the research. And then once she did the research, then she said, well, let's bring on individuals who can help. Let's bring all the legislators in and let's see what we can do to make a difference.
And that leads us right into our conversation about the Elizabeth Dole Fellow. The mission of the Elizabeth Dole Fellow program is to engage active military and veteran caregivers directly in the foundation's initiatives, allowing them an opportunity to advise our programs and play a leading role in raising awareness for the needs of caregivers throughout the nation. You are a fellow. Tell us about that and what made you decide you wanted to volunteer your time to be a Dole Fellow?
Well, for me, it was all about getting resource information out. I know for anybody who watches you, I'm sure that's a shocker for them. You know, I have actually been a Red Cross volunteer in the past. And also, because I followed Senator Dole, I knew that this was a program I needed to be a part of somehow. I wasn't sure how, but because the fellows get to go out and talk to people, get to talk to their legislators, get an opportunity to really share resources and information about caregiving and share their story. My dad's story is not like anybody else's. And my caregiver journey, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, is not like anybody else's. But I didn't identify as a caregiver until Secretary Urena, who was the Massachusetts Veteran Service Secretary at the time, sent me a message and said, Lisa, I want you to come up here for this Hidden Heroes event with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And I'm like, okay, sir, that's 2 hours down, 2 hours back for an hour event. But okay, if you think I should, and I'm all about resources, I'm going. And I couldn't have been more grateful that I went, because at that point, that's when I found out that I was a caregiver. You know, my dad is a Vietnam vet. And, you know, I didn't see myself as a caregiver. And that's where, when they put out the word that they were looking for Hidden Heroes Fellows, my application went right in. No question. Boom, there it is.
Okay. You know, and one of the things that once you become a fellow, you get involved in the Hidden Heroes program. Is that correct?
So yes, so the Hidden Heroes is a campaign foundation is actually a campaign.
Okay.
And it's a campaign that's a multi-year faceted campaign, really. And it brings attention to the untold stories. So when you become a fellow, then they want you to share your story. They want everybody to share their story. But as a fellow, part of that is to raise awareness of issues that caregivers are having, to inspire individuals and businesses to really support and take action to support our veteran and military caregivers. And there's a whole bunch of other things that go underneath that campaign. But it's all about awareness, because you don't know what you don't know. And as you and I have previously talked, there were a lot of things that could have benefited you when you were working with caregivers. And we don't know those things unless somebody's sharing it with us. So we have to spread the word.
I wanted to share this picture with our audience because there is Senator Dole in the dead center. And if you're looking straight at your screen to your left, about 3 people on a 45-degree angle is my friend Lisa back there smiling, being a part of this amazing group of hidden heroes and fellows for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And Lisa, what I found interesting that picture, as she sits there smiling, that petite woman has inspired those people. That's just one of the thousands of groups of people that she has inspired to step forward and volunteer their time to support others in need, which brings us right to our caregiver journey. And the caregiver's journey, whoo, Lisa, that is something. And as you stated, I was a caregiver for 10 years and had no idea I was a caregiver. In addition to that, for 10 years, I needed caregiving and had no idea I was in need of that, or that I even qualified for caregiving, or that I qualified as a caregiver, and was totally in the dark of the resources available to me.
And that, I think, is where the caregiver journey is so important to understand. What a lot of people don't understand about the caregiver journey, and it's because it's really not out there, it's in different stages. So the becoming aware stage, which is the first stage, this should be the stage in which you're just really becoming aware and really understanding that you're a caregiver. This should not be at the very end. So for me, the example I'm going to give is my father, because right now I've been through all 3 stages of caregiving. So the first stage is the becoming aware. And that was when I heard about the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And I realized when I was listening to them at that event, I realized, oh my gosh, I need to switch my mindset to a caregiver mindset. Yes, he's my father and he'll always be my father. And I am truly a daddy's girl. But I needed to understand that I needed to think like a caregiver. And because I was fortunate enough to do this in stage 1, which is the very beginning, I could then adapt to phase 2, which is seeking priorities and seeking help. So when you shift your priorities and you seek the help that you need, that makes your life a little bit easier, because you understand that there's increased levels of responsibility for you at this point. And that's when you understand it, and then you have to seek help, because you can't do it alone. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you're at home 24/7 by yourself and then all of a sudden you're coming in. You still need to seek help of some kind, inevitably. And then you're going to find your rhythm. The finding the rhythm this is where you really start to adjust to, this is what's happening. This is how I'm cultivating. I've got all my support structures in place. And now I'm going to use the help that I need, and I'm going to go ahead and address everything that my dad needs. And so that's the beauty. And we would not have this caregiver journey map if it wasn't for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, because she worked with Phillips in the Wounded Warrior Program and somebody else, but I forget who. Sorry to whoever it is. But the Elizabeth Dole Foundation had this caregiver journey map done by caregivers for caregivers. And one of the most beautiful things about the caregiver journey map is if I can show this to somebody and say, this is where you are, and this is where you go to get help, and this is how you can get to the next stage, it really makes a big mindset difference, or at least it did for me. And I would imagine that it will for others as well, because it puts things in place for you.
Absolutely. And here's what I want to do, because I have my iPad, because I know you won't do this, but here's what I got. I wanted to make sure, because we are honoring Senator Dole, you took the time to write this, and it was like, she's the 8th United States Secretary of Transportation and the first woman to serve in this position. During her time in office, she was a leader and advocate for American transportation infrastructure and safety. She worked closely with legislators, industry leaders, transportation professionals, and provided comprehensive plans to strengthen our nation's transportation system with a focus on environmental policies, air quality, highway construction, and railway service. That is a lasting impact for American transportation landscape, and a legacy that she has progress with innovation that will endure over time, that the next secretaries are now able to even benefit from. She was also the 20th United States Secretary of Labor and the first woman to serve in this position throughout her tenure. She worked to level the playing field in terms of wages, benefits, workplace safety standards for women and minority groups. She's an advocate of flexible work arrangements, which you mentioned. She was strong about enforcing rules against discrimination. She wanted to reduce workplace hazards, more comprehensive healthcare plans. She laid the essential foundation that would eventually lead to an increased recognition of enforcement of labor rights throughout our country. And this, again, is a legacy, and one that is standing and is taken advantage of for the people in the working world. Oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. It says she was the president of the American Red Cross. You said that. But during that time, she was committed to advocating for a mission of saving lives, alleviating human suffering, and helping people prepare for the response of natural disasters. Under her leadership, it says here in the book that she was good in disaster relief efforts that expanded to include improved access to shelter and healthcare services. She worked to publicize Americans' blood supply shortage, emphasizing the importance of blood donations. Again, another legacy that will strengthen the resilient communities worldwide, not just in the United States. You know, if I hit the wrong button one more time. She was the first woman elected as a senator for North Carolina. Whoop, whoop. Here's my state. During this time, she championed economic development initiatives focusing on creating legislation that would benefit middle-class families. She was especially active in issues related to national security, expanding healthcare access coverage, job creation, and defending terrorist threats. It says she ensured adequate resources were available for veterans and military families, and her legacy of always fighting to make sure everyone had access to services they needed in order to get ahead and inspiring people to believe in their own power to shape their communities makes a difference. I'm going on here. And the Elizabeth Dole Foundation itself, which is where you become a fellow at, where you have hidden heroes and have all these lovely people I showed a picture of, with a mission to honor and empower the nation's military and veteran caregivers. She's the wife of a wounded veteran. She experienced firsthand the struggles and daily sacrifices of families. Under her leadership, the foundation led efforts to expand support for veteran caregivers through advocacy, awareness, education, research, and respite care. Additionally, she developed a nationwide network of organizations, programs, and resources that have meaningful impact on all those who serve our country and our military families. This occurred in 2015. when she founded the Hidden Heroes and later Hidden Helpers. Again, a legacy of always fighting to make sure everyone has access to the services they needed. That is just some of the stuff that Lisa placed in a flip book. And here's the thing, guys, that's not all. Those are the things that Lisa come up with, because what's not captured in there are all the voices of all the families that have been helped, because Senator Elizabeth Dole stepped up and took charge because she saw a need and she filled that need. And by doing so, she's walking out her purpose and help other men and women are better able to take care of their families and themselves. And she inspires women like Lisa to take up the charge and step in and volunteer their time, because Lisa is the resource ninja. If it's a resource, she knows about it and she will make sure somebody else does as well. Is there anything else you can think of as we wrap this up that you want someone to know about Senator Dole that maybe I didn't point out or cover in some of the pages?
You know, I just want to reiterate that we as women really need to step up and say out loud what we do and who we are. We need history to understand her story.
Mm-hmm.
We need history to recognize the value of women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you look at all of the different things that Senator Dole has done, the impact that she's had on millions that nobody even realizes she's had.
Mm.
It's all, we're always behind the scenes. Women throughout history have been behind the scenes because we don't brag about the things that we do. And I'm going to say it's okay to brag.
It is okay to brag. And sometimes it's even nicer when somebody else brags for us, like you did today. I will be a complete witness that you are often bragging on the senator and her accomplishments and trying to find ways to let her know you value what she's done and what she stands for. And I would like to ask for those that may watch, that are watching this now or may watch on the replay, if there is a woman that you'd like to honor, a woman of impact, please DM me and let me know, because I would love to feature her on the show, even if it's not Women's History Month, because you know what? Women make history every day. We are about taking care of our families, taking care of our nations, and being citizens of this global economy that allows it to run, because without, what is that? There is no world without a woman or a girl. So I know they say it's a man's world, but without us, they lost. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Lisa. I'm so excited you decided to spotlight Senator Elizabeth Dole. And if any of you are interested in finding out more about the senator and her foundation and everything she stands for, you can go to www.elizabethdolefoundation.org to get the information and reach out, and maybe you too could become a fellow, or at least find out what it takes to be a caregiver, because the information is there and available to you. For the senator and all her amazing contributions, I would like to say thank you. And I thank you, Lisa, for bringing her to my attention and for sharing your thoughts about the senator here today on this special edition of Talk to Me. I know you'll be back next month again as we talk about something else. But for Women's History Month, I'm excited that you were here to share with me.
Thank you, Brenda.
I said, it looked like you were frozen. That's the thing about lives. Don't you just love them? Anyway, you guys, y'all have an absolutely fabulous day. There's still some days left in the month. So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to find a woman that you too can spotlight. Go on Instagram, go on Facebook, go on TikTok, go on something, go on X. I don't care. Go somewhere and tell somebody about a woman of impact, because women are making a difference every single day. And it's your turn, if you're a woman, to make a difference for another woman. Remember, your light does not have to dim because another woman light shine. We shine brighter together. And as always, the choices you make today will be the reality you live tomorrow. So absolutely choose wisely and choose to lift a woman up. Be blessed, everyone. Good night.